After listening to Clark Lee, this quarterback situation could get very interesting on Saturday.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Now, Vandy's goals for the bye week was to get people healed and rested. They accomplished that. They built depth, and that depth will be needed against LSU. And they got a lot of down the line guys, some good developmental work as well. So that's the good news. That's all the good news from the bye week, right? But there's some guys that are still kind of bumped and bruised, and the quarterback position is going to be rather interesting. Now, here's the thing. Diego Pavia, unless you could cut off his leg and he'd probably still try to play. That dude is tough as nails, okay? And this is going to be a concern because, well, Diego Pavia is still, for Clark Lee to make mention of how badly he was beat up and being unsure of how effective he could be, that's concerning to me a little bit because, in a healthier version of Diego Pavia, what I said yesterday about him being able to run on LSU's defense and being able to have a lot of success doing that, I still believe that he can do that. I just got to know that he's probably – I got to know that he's a little bit healthier than he was against South Carolina. Now, he kept re-aggravating his ankle. He was taking shot after shot after shot. Now, he's a tough dude. He's a great leader, and he will give every inch of his will and soul and being to beat LSU on Saturday. Now, given all of that, there's a world where he's just not quite as effective because of this injury. And in that world, Vandy has to have some contingency plans, and I'm sure they've been working on that. I'm sure Nate Johnson got all the reps as QB1 last week during last week's bye week. He's gotten all this developmental work. Probably this season hasn't gone quite as he expected. I don't think he expected Diego Pavia to blow up the way that he has, but I think you could see. I think the two quarterback situation that I talked about back in the offseason, all spring and summer, that could happen at some point. Like I said, hey, Diego Pavia his job is to take us as far as he can possibly take us. And maybe this is that point. All right. Maybe it's time for now this two quarterback system to kind of kick in. Like that would not shock me at all because Nate Johnson has fresh legs. He is quick. He is explosive. You saw what happened when Jalen Milroe got in the game. You could see something similar with Nate Johnson. Passing wise, I don't know what you're going to get. But then again, with Diego Pavia, you didn't really know what you were going to get either. He's just a playmaker. He's just a baller. He makes throws. You hope they make the catches, all that good stuff. He's a baller. Nate Johnson was a baller at Utah. He's capable of making these throws. I don't know as far as making reads against the defense, but this offense I think is not quite as demanding in that regard as it was probably Utah. So I'll be interested to kind of see if and how they use Nate Johnson throughout this game, because I think with that, I think if you can get Diego Pavia some rest in certain situations, I think you save him a little bit, and I think you keep some of that tread on the tire so that when you need him to ball out, he can go and ball out, because I think Nate Johnson's perfectly capable. I think you have a viable quarterback run game and a viable run game in general with Nate Johnson. I don't think what Vanderbilt does and does best really drops off a ton with Nate Johnson, because he's so explosive, because he's so fast, that I think that the ability to pop a big play still remains. Now, can he lead the offense as good as Diego Pavia? Probably not, but Diego Pavia brings two years head start of experience in this offense with him that Nate Johnson didn't have, and that's the advantage that he has. But Nate Johnson is every bit as capable as a player. I'm just curious to see how they're going to get it done, because I truly think Pavia is going to try to gut this out, and me and every other Vandy fan and every player on that sideline, every coach in that office, every administrator, anyone associated with Vandy or anybody putting the V on their hat or their shirt is going to appreciate the toughness and the grit that Diego Pavia is going to play with. Now, we got to be smart about it, and I think there's a plan around it. I think you're going to see some things where they have certain packages for Nate Johnson to be able to give Diego Pavia. They're almost going to try to treat it like a running back committee where it's like 70-30 probably is how I anticipate seeing the split on this. And I think that 30% will be enough for Diego Pavia to not get out of a rhythm and be able to get some much needed rest and recovery time throughout the game. And the adrenaline's going to be pumping, so that usually helps as well. But man, this is going to be, like I said, this strategy is going to be it's going to be interesting. And I say interesting, and I still believe that the quarterback run game is going to be there, because LSU hadn't stopped it yet. And Nate Johnson's faster, more explosive than Diego Pavia. They don't have too many answers for that. They still haven't tackled Jalen Milroe. I don't think they will ever tackle Jalen Milroe. DJ Lagway didn't have to run, probably could have if he wanted to, but he was able to dice him up through the air, which is kind of concerning for LSU because their defense is reeling a little bit. So I think any bit of success. I think, honestly, if I had to, with this offense, if I had to kind of predict what I thought was going to happen, if Vandy, here's some if situations, like if this, then this, right? So if Vandy wins the toss, elects to receive, drives it for 10 minutes and punches one in, I think that's going to be so deflating for LSU that I think the fans are gonna check out, because they've lost 3 in a row. It's been bad around there lately. They're probably looking for reasons to turn on Brian Kelly at this point. And I think you're going to see a very deflated LSU team. And I think the game is going to go a lot like that. It's going to be a late game, 6:45 kick local time. They will have had all day to kind of sit there and just kind of anticipate and Vandy's going to have all day to sit there and get piped up and pumped up. And, nobody, it's still Vandy. LSU still treating them like that. LSU still treating that game like that. So I see if Vandy can do their patented first drive death march, I think that's going to spell trouble for LSU. And I think that's going to be one of those scenarios where you're like, okay, LSU, you could see at the end of the game that LSU got dominated at the line of scrimmage. And that wouldn't shock me one bit, because LSU's kind of in that mode where, and I've seen LSU do this before, and I've seen Brian Kelly teams do this before. When the season ain't going too hot, they fall apart. It's part of like that Brian Kelly culture. Honestly, he kind of just berates you so much that you just kind of crumble and you just don't want to take it anymore. And when things are going bad, you're just tuning it out. And, it's just not a healthy scenario, right? It's not a healthy culture right now. It's not a healthy situation there at LSU. So that, if that, then I can see that happening. Now, if LSU wins the toss, goes 3 and out, punts it to Vandy, and then Vandy goes on a death march to punch it in for 7. I think that's also all she wrote. Okay. I think those are the two scenarios where I could all but guarantee that Vandy's going to win that game. I think those two scenarios right there will put LSU into a tailspin that they can't recover from. Now, if LSU, given the fact that they're struggling, they are still front runners. So if LSU wins the toss, rips it down the field, puts it across the end zone, takes a 7-0 lead, I think Vandy's going to be in for a long day. because that crowd will be hyped at that point, and it'll be tough to come back on that. And Vandy will need to do some work to be able to recover from that, because that crowd, once they're in it, and the team feeds off that, right? And then of course, if Vandy wins the toss, goes 3 and out, punts it, and LSU rips it down the field, or LSU takes the punt to the house, it's over. It's ball game for Vandy, right? I think those are the two ends of the spectrum. Okay. Anything else in between, it's a freaking coin toss. Anything goes in that scenario. There's going to be momentum shifted probably 38 times. And that's going to be how this game goes. It's going to be a hard fought game, I think. But I think LSU, their emotional baggage right now, it's going to be that versus the Red Cross tent that Vandy is currently sitting under. It's going to be all the injuries versus all of the emotional baggage. What's going to win? Are these guys going to cowboy up? Are the injuries mostly healed and they're fine, and they're going to go out and beat the team that's emotionally damaged right now? Who knows? That's what it's going to come down to mindset wise. And I think it's going to come down to the quarterback situation. How healthy is Diego Pavia? How effective is Nate Johnson in relief? We're all about to find out, right? So I think when you're evaluating this offense, you're going to have to find other things that they can do. We'll talk about those other things next. All right, man. I love a great deal as much as the next guy, honestly, but I'm going to crawl through the bed of hot coals, proverbially, just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy, right? I'm not going to crawl through that bed of hot coals. No hoops, no BS, none of that. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out it is really that easy to get a wireless plan for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold waiting to break up with my old provider. It's easy. Trust me. To get started, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. There you'll see that right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with your existing contacts. Find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer, your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. It's right here below. That's mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speeds are slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, we are back. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. If you need a second listen, SEC, Locked On SEC. We squatted up every Thursday. It drops, man. It's going to be interesting. It was a very rocky episode. This week is going to be very rocky, I think. So be sure to tune into that. Anyway, if you need a third listen, please. It's going to be interesting. Brandon Olson, Locked On Florida. Thought I'd never say that, but Brandon Olson, Locked On Florida. Love him. Love his show. Hate the Gators, but love his show. Locked On Ole Miss with Stephen Willis does a phenomenal job. Watch those two shows. It's going to get interesting between those two because this is going to be a really, really, really fun game because Florida is their arrow's going this way. Ole Miss's arrow's going this way. Something's got to give on that one. So anyway, check those shows out. All right, now as we roll on, as we press on with this one, man, with this offense, we talked. I talked on Blue in the Face about the quarterback situation, how it could be truly a 2-quarterback situation. Nate Johnson's going to have to do some good relief work. I think he's going to have to really hone in on some things. But LSU's defense isn't going to, when they see Nate Johnson trotting out there, they're going to see that and be like, okay, We're not letting Nate Johnson beat us, and they're going to dedicate themselves to that. They're going to play against the run. They'll be tough early on because they want to get their crowd into it, right? They've struggled. They struggle with quarterback run game. So something where's it going to go wrong, right? So why not put Nate Johnson in there and see if it goes wrong, right? That's what LSU's thinking. That's their mindset. Okay, well if they're going to go to the backup here on this series, surely that he's not as good as Pavia, right? They don't know that Nate Johnson is explosive and fast and runs a lot like Jalen Milroe. They don't know that. So other aspects of this offense are going to have to kind of pop in, right? Cedric Alexander, AJ Newberry are going to have to be forces. AJ Newberry's been a really good force in the passing game. He's been a really good target for Diego Pavia. He's going to have to be a really good target this week, right? Quincy Skinner is going to have to show up. Junior Sherrill is going to have to show up in some big spots, right? They're going to have to find creative ways to move the chains. Eli Stowers is going to have a huge game. I think they're going to have to find ways to get him some looks in the open field and get him some separation and get the ball in his hands and let him go. Cole Spence is going to have to be a factor. I think he's just too big. He's 6'7". Like, you got to find a way to spread the ball to him. He's great blocking on the edge and blocking on the perimeter as well. So you're going to have to take advantage of that. You're just going to have to find a way to hit on all cylinders through these other aspects of this offense, because you cannot rely on just the option game, because LSU is going to key on that. That's going to be their main focus. So you have to get them to where they have to honor something else. And like I said yesterday, if a team can get Vandy into a situation to where they don't believe that they can beat them in any other way, like the example I gave is when they start compressing space and you can't beat them over the top. Well, they're going to keep compressing that space and they're going to force you to beat them over the top, because they're going to make sure that you can't beat them any other way, that you have to beat them that way. And you'll go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. The next thing you know, that score will be like 35-3. You know what I mean? Because you can't create enough space and you can't beat them over the top. LSU is going to sell out to force you to beat them in other ways. Can you do that? Can you move the ball in other ways besides quarterback run and option? That's going to be probably the biggest key, because your goal is to slow the game down, control the clock, control the field. That's your goal. That's your ultimate goal, right? And to do that, you just got to keep getting first downs. So you have to find ways to get first downs. You have to find ways to have looks off of looks, to have things off of things, right? You've had some really cool end around reverse type plays. Now you got to have some bluffs. You got to have some play actions off of it. You got to have some things to where now in a 4th and short situation or a 3rd and short situation where you have Eli Stowers taking a snap, now you got to have him throw a pass. Like, you got to do things off of things to be able to continue to do the things you want to do. Because if you want to create space for the run game, you have to prove that you can push it deep, push it vertical. At some point, you're going to have to prove that. You're going to have to reprove that. I think what teams have done a great job of, South Carolina especially, but Texas did a great job of this as well. The teams that were successful against Vandy, they compressed that space and they didn't let it up. And Vandy was not able to do anything because they didn't have time to do anything. Receivers weren't getting separation, or a combination of both. But they don't have those chances, and Vandy could not create those chances. So South Carolina wasn't buying that. They had no qualms sticking somebody out there one-on-one and bringing heat. They had no qualms about it, because they knew they were going to win that matchup. And they knew that Pavia wasn't going to be able to get the ball off, because A, he was beat up, and B, that rush is just so damn fast anyway. So that's kind of where they are on that. In LSU, their main goal is to say, okay, our main goal is to say, we're not going to let the quarterback run. Well, that didn't work too well against Marcel Reed. That didn't work too well against Jalen Milroe. DJ Lagway has 1.5 hamstrings. He's not running. He wasn't running in that game. He's going to run in other games, but he wasn't running in that game. So LSU, I think, I don't know how they feel about this game psychologically, because they know they can't lose this one. There's a lot of pressure on them. So that's gonna play into how they play defense. Are they gonna press? Are they going to try to beat you with blitz? And if they can, I think Tim Beck and Jerry Kill can find a way to scheme out of that. They have built-in hots. They have built-in things to where, you get too blitz happy, they can make you pay. And teams that get blitz happy are the ones that pay. Like Bama, I think we're a little too aggressive blitzing wise, and they got burned a lot. South Carolina played you with 6. They just won their matchups. And that was the key. So South Carolina, but the difference between South Carolina and LSU right now, South Carolina is extremely hungry. LSU, they might be hungry for a different reason. Who knows, right? But we'll talk about Garrett Nussmeier, because I think Clark Lee had some really interesting things to say about Garrett Nussmeier and this LSU offense and what they need to do defensively to stop that. And then Brandon Fontenot's key. He's getting some calls too. I'll tell you what all of that means next. All right. Thank you to our beautiful partners from Skylights. That's right. What's missing this holiday season and want them to be a part of your festivities from afar? Do your loved ones live far away but wish they could be close with you? Right? Maybe gift giving isn't your love language. You overthink it and you wind up with something disappointing or nothing at all. Been there. Right? So we got the perfect gift for you. Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo frame your whole family will love. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. My mom has one. We made sure to get her that. And my child goes over there and he loves scrolling through the pictures. It's a touchscreen thing. He loves it, right? It's so easy to use. Setup takes less than 60 seconds. Seamless sharing. Invite friends and family to easily share photos via the free Skylight mobile app or email, no account or subscription required. Add new photos straight from your phone from anywhere. It only takes a tap on your phone to send new photos to a frame across the country. It's the fastest and easiest way to keep loved ones in the loop. They'll feel so much more connected to you. The touchscreen is a game changer. Swipe through photos, tap to see new photos sent, and tap the heart button to say thank you to the sender. It looks beautiful in your home. Photos are displayed in HD resolution, and you can choose from 5 different frame styles. Set it up in portrait or landscape mode. 2 sizes to choose from as well. The original 10-inch or larger 15-inch gallery frame. They look perfect in any room and they can stand on their own, or you can easily mount them to the wall. Better than social media. It's great and private way to share photos without posting it to the world to see or having to print and store hard copies. Gift mode makes it very meaningful, personalized gifts. You can preload it with memories without opening the box. Just surprise them with old sentimental photos as soon as it's plugged in. So satisfaction guaranteed. We're confident that you'll love Skylight. We offer free 120-day returns. You probably won't use it. You probably won't use the return window, that is. It's a top-rated brand, over 100 million happy customers, over 1 million happy customers. I hope that, I think Skylight hopes that they have 100 million happy customers, thousands of 5-star reviews, and available in over 30 countries. So they're recommended by the Today Show, Forbes, and New York Magazine, and more. So, and now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, you get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/college. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/college. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/college. All right, FanDuel, guys. You can get ready to tackle all the football action, NFL and college, with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. So stay tuned to my Friday show. I'll give you some picks. Hopefully they're better. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. You can do that with college too. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So just visit FanDuel.com to get started and join today. You'll get started with $115 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen. Now, are you listening to this show while you're munching on a bagel from Creve Hall Bagel? Well, if you're not, if you're a morning listener, you should be at Creve Hall Bagel right now. They, if you want a really good sourdough bagel, if you're somebody who has some gluten allergies and can't have regular bagels, or like you just don't quite like regular bagels, well, guess what? Creve Hall, they're not like regular bagels. They're sourdough bagels. They're baked with love, passion, and lots of know-how. Right? This was born out of the pandemic and sprouted into a second location that's soon to come in East Nashville. So if you're a Nashville local and you want a really good bagel, visit Creve Hall. You will not be sorry. All right. Get in with there's already people on it. So you better get there before they sell out every single day, right? They make a certain batch and they sell out every single day. If you're missing out, you're truly missing out. Creve Hall Bagels. Do it. And also, while you're doing that, find us on YouTube or anywhere you find your podcast. So anyway, let's talk defense for a few minutes. Okay. Now, Clark Lee had this to say about Garrett Nussmeier and the defense, right? He's set. He can make any throw and rip them right after the snap, meaning he gets the ball out of his hands, right? He's had a little trouble with times with quick passes into the flat. And he said we need to play with better awareness. He's feeding the ball to great athleticism, and we need to be on point. Yada yada yada. He has enough mobility, move the pocket, extend plays. He's every bit of a dual threat, and he needs to know. And he said the biggest strategies need to contest space when the ball leaves his hand. So I think with what he's saying here, he said a whole bunch, but he's saying these things. All right. We need to disrupt his reads. So I think he comes to the line, pre-snap read. He knows where he wants to go with the ball. If you can disrupt that, you can get him off his rhythm. You can get pressure on him, flush him, or close the space down to where he can't complete easy passes. Okay. The next thing he's saying is that he's mobile. So you have to keep him and tackle well in space. Because if you don't tackle well in space, it doesn't matter who you're going against. You could be going against me as quarterback or Michael Vick as quarterback or anybody in between. If you don't tackle well in space, it don't really matter. So you got to tackle well in space. You got to poke that ball out there because he's known to get a little careless with the football and contest space. Or compress space. This is the biggest one to me, right? Because what is a quarterback's worst enemy? No space. No receivers open, or the thought even that there are no receivers open. Like that's almost just as bad as receivers not actually being open. If you can compress space and fill voids and not let receivers run open all the time, that messes with the psyche of the quarterback. And with somebody like Garrett Nussmeier, who if he's not able to get the ball out of his hands in a rhythm, now he gets kind of frazzled a little bit. He double clutches. He moves the pocket. He runs around and he looks for opportunities. And next thing you know, the ball's on the ground. Or next thing you know, ball's intercepted. Or next thing you know, it's just incomplete. And it's 2nd and 10. But he's just a little bit less confident every time he does that. And so when you can get him into these little tailspins that he gets into occasionally, you have to be able to take advantage of that, right? So this defense is going to have to not only compress space, but they're going to have to convert some of this to takeaways. They're going to have to get that ball out when they get to them. They just have to. They have to steal a possession somewhere. They have to force them to stay behind the sticks. They cannot let them be in 2nd, 3rd, and short. It's got to be 2nd and medium or more. Same with 3rd down. All right, they've got to get off the field. They've got to reduce the number of plays. And I think these back-breaking drives that I talked about offensively, if they can make those happen, this offense will start pressing, and they'll actually start doing the opposite of what they need to do. I think that's kind of what got Alabama. Alabama was pressing because they knew they weren't going to have as many possessions as they normally get. And so they tried and tried and tried to do things, and they ended up doing things that were against what Jalen Milroe does well. And I think against LSU, Kalen DeBoer finally realized that Jalen Milroe is not Michael Penix. And he stopped treating him like he was Michael Penix, and he started treating him like he was an absolute weapon. And look what happened, right? So I think that's not really, I don't know what that has to do with anything, but the fact of the matter is this: that can devastate LSU psyche, I think is where I was going with that. Because Jalen Milroe was so good, LSU felt like they needed to overcome that, and they just couldn't. They'd get the ball down to about the 20, they'd stall out, they'd kick a field goal, or they kick a field goal and miss, right? They did that. They moved the ball. They'd get a couple first downs, but they couldn't really ever do much with it consistently. And I think some of that's play calling. I think some of that is you'll get, some of the limitations that Garrett Nussmeier has that he doesn't realize that he has. There's a combination of all that. So if you can get pressure and all of that, you're good to go. One last thing before I go, Brandon Fontenot's going to be an absolute machine. And he's going to be a major factor this weekend because the role that he plays is kind of that edge guy. He's somebody that can close down space from the intermediate to the line of scrimmage. He's somebody that can really affect this game by coming off the edge and pressure, or stepping into a passing lane, or a little bit of both. He's kind of one of those game-wrecking players that offensive coordinators hate to see. They're going to be like, okay, where's two? Where's two? He's going to wreck this, isn't he? And he probably will at some point. He'll probably have a game-wrecking play for Vanderbilt, and that'll make this LSU crowd not thrilled whatsoever. So he's getting calls from other SEC schools. They need to, and this may just be like toeing the company line, player speak, like, hey, I'm just thinking about LSU right now, but he says he's not interested. I mean, he wants to stay at LSU. He wants to beat LSU. He wants to stay at Vandy, and he wants to finish out his playing career here. And so that's very noble of him, and I hope he sticks to that. But money talks, unfortunately, and so we'll see kind of how that statement holds up as money's starting to be thrown at him. But SEC teams are after him. I guess it's legal to tamper. I'm not sure, but anyway, I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think he wants to go anywhere. He's happy in Clark Lea's defense because Clark Lea's defense really, really, really showcases what he's good at. And there you have it. So that's where I'm going to leave you today. But this is, as we'll monitor this quarterback situation. It's going to be tricky, but Nate Johnson's probably getting most of the practice reps in preparation for that to see, hey, is it going to be a 2-quarterback system or not? So we'll see. But anyway, we'll talk more about it on the next episode of Locked On Vandy. Anchor down, behave yourselves. Peace.